Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Shiran. I'll be talking about the best books of 2022. Before I get started, if you're new to this channel, please don't hesitate to subscribe down below as well as hit the notification bell. But I am super excited to go over the best books I read this past year. So let's just jump right into it. The first book I want to talk about is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. By the way, these are all books I rate very highly, like 4.5 to 5-star reads. Absolutely adore all of these books. This book is basically a Chinese inspired by Chang'e, who is the Chinese moon goddess, and it follows her daughter who is on this quest to kind of set her mother free from being trapped on the moon. And you know, things kind of happen from there. There's a lot about the celestials, the other immortals, about the politics, about there's a lot of magic in here. I adore this book. This book is so freaking good. I think when I first read this book I gave it like 4 stars, but the more I think about it and the more I keep thinking about it, I'm like bumping this almost like a 5-star read. It's just such a beautifully written book. I love the writing style, I love the characters, the plot was a lot going on. The ending was also such a huge cliffhanger that I cannot wait to find out what happens next. So with all of that said, this is one of the best books I've read for the year. The next book I want to talk about is Weir by Jordan Ifueko. This is a book that I didn't really expect a lot out of. I heard a lot of people talk about it, rave reviews, but I feel like sometimes with these rave reviews, you read them with such high expectations and then you come out of it not feeling satisfied. This was not the case. I went in with very little expectations because I didn't really know too much about this book, didn't expect too much, I guess, even though I've seen and read a lot of great reviews about this book. But this book just blew my mind. It was so freaking good. Like, I finished this book, immediately went to purchase the second book, and then life kind of happened and I haven't picked up the second book yet, but I am going to read that for next year, like for sure. But this book was just so freaking good. The next book on here is Ready Player 2. This book was amazing. I don't know why so many people didn't care much for the sequel. I personally really enjoyed it. I did listen to an audiobook, so I don't know if that changed it, but I believe it was also a full cast, so I was like super, wait, was it full cast? I don't know. Point is though, I love the audiobook. It was so easy for me to get right back into the story, to get sucked in with the plot, the characters, and just continue on with what happened after the first book. I do feel like the main character became more of an asshole in the second book because of what transpired in the first book, but for me, I felt like that's transition as a character development made sense because of everything that happened to him and kind of like the events leading up to him later on. So I didn't really find him like relatable, as in like I wouldn't do that, but like I can see where he's coming from. So I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was a great read. It was a great continuation of the series. I love Ready Player One, and obviously I had a great time reading this book, so highly recommend this one if you really enjoyed the first book and want to give the second book a chance. The next book on here is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is another one that is obviously amazing. Honestly, at this point, all of her books are pretty much 5-star reads for me, or like very close to 5-star reads for me. Her character development is just phenomenal and you just become so invested in the story. I think the reason why I didn't give this book 5 stars is because this book does follow quite a number of POVs, and so as she develops the characters, I feel like at the end of the day she's really good with just writing one POV, because that's when you fall absolutely head over heels with that character. For example, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was like that. Daisy Jones and the Six was also like that. Those are all like phenomenal reads. And then this one, I felt like everything was amazing. It's just that because there are just so many scattered POVs, I felt like myself, I was also a little scattered in finding out like who do I love most and who do I relate to the most, etc. And I feel like the division of the POVs was felt in her writing style. At least I can feel it. So I felt less invested with all the different characters versus the books where she just focuses on one sole character. But that aside though, I think this book was phenomenally written. I love the characters, I love the plots, and just seeing how everything come to fruition from the beginning to the end. There's just so much that transpires throughout the book that you're just like left at this like state of awe at the end, and I loved every minute of it. The next book on here is Darius the Great Deserves Better. This is another one that I didn't really expect too much out of, but I love the first book that I immediately went ahead and picked up the second book, and I read it this year and I adored it. It is such a good read. I love the characters. I felt like I just became so invested with him and just him kind of like navigating life, especially the aftermath of the first book. And I love the friendship that he forms and the relationship that he forms. I just felt like everything was just so solid, and it was very much a feel-good type of read for me. And I don't know, but I just felt very connected with the character, with Darius, and absolutely adore this book. Then the next book on here is Iron Widow by Shiran J. Zhao. This is another one that I absolutely adored. This is the one where I feel like I read it and I was like, oh my, that's a good read. And I didn't give it like 4 stars or 4.5 stars. But the more I think about it, and the more and more I think about it, the more I'm like, this is more like a 5-star read, because it's just has this like lasting impact on, you know, like my reading, and like it's just in my head like this entire time. And it's been months since I read this book, which goes to show like how impactful of a read this is, and I absolutely enjoyed it. The next book on here is actually a series, and that is As Good as Dead. This book, as well as the second book, Good Girl Bad Blood, were both amazing reads for me, and these books are part of the Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is such a phenomenal read. I absolutely love it. Like everything about this book, the series, is just so freaking good. I feel like this book especially, like the first half was very much, you know, one way, and then something switches halfway through the book and you're just like off this completely different path, but in such a good way that you're just left like, holy shit. I love this book. I thought it was so well done. I thought that the characters, how everything comes together, especially from the first book, and how everything wraps together in this final book was just phenomenal. And I cannot recommend this book highly enough. It is such a good YA thriller series. So if you're looking for a really good YA thriller, definitely check out the series. Next book on here is one that I cannot not include, and that is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book to the series, and I give the first book and this book 5 stars. It is such a good read. I don't care what people say about Sarah J. Maas. I think that her books are just meant for entertainment, and it is, at the end of the day, just enjoyable reads for me. I don't like to think too much sometimes when it comes to reading, because I read to escape and not think about reality. So I don't like to think too much about the politics and, you know, how it aligns with like different things, because I just want to escape reality. So this book definitely allowed me to do that. I was so invested. The ending of this book was just wild. Even now I'm just like, I feel like I have the urge to reread Throne of Glass series just to kind of see like tidbits from there, because it's been a couple years since I've read the series, but at the same time I do want to wait until she finishes the series so I can go back and kind of like, you know, figure things out between the worlds and how they're connected or how they're not connected, and just figure things out essentially. And ending of this book is just wild. I'm currently reading A Court of Silver Flames, and I'm just like zeroing on certain things. So I'm like, is this relevant? Is this not relevant? I need to know. And I'm excited. I love this book. I also reread the first book because I was like, it's been a while. I just want to refresh my memory, and did not regret it at all. Love the series. I love this book. Love the characters. I do think that this book was a little bit long and it could have been shortened a little bit. That's my only like qualm about it. But overall, highly recommend. Cannot wait for the next book. Then this next book is one that I just read, and obviously I was like 5-star read, 100%. Cannot wait to recommend this, and that is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. Guys, this book is so freaking good. As soon as I started listening to an audiobook, I was already like, this is gonna be a great read. I'm already in love with the characters. I love her vibe. I love her humor. I love the main guy as well. I already see how things play out, but I want to know how they play out, and it did not disappoint. Like everything was sweet, it was cute, it was funny, it was romantic, and I just loved every single moment of it. And I also recommended it to my friend, and she read it, and she was like, she texted me yesterday, and she's like, Love on the Brain is already a 5-star read. And I was like, yes it is. Like, it's such a good book. All right, on to the last and final book that I want to rave about, and that is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This book was wild. I really didn't know what to expect, because I did read Artemis before and that was okay, and then I never read The Martian, but I did watch The Martian and thought that was a pretty good movie. So this was his actual book that I read and really loved, and this book was just everything. Like the humor, the dialogue, the characters, like they're just so endearing. And I don't want to spoil too much of it, because I feel like this is a sci-fi novel where you really don't want to go in knowing too much, because I went into it pretty much completely blind. I just knew it was a sci-fi novel about going to deep space and things kind of happen and now he's like stuck there. And what happens after that is just so endearing and kind of wild, but I loved every second of it. I just loved the characters kind of learning about each other and trying to understand each other and working together despite their differences. I love the messages in this book. I just love the plot as well, and there's just so much about the story that I adored. But this was such a good read. I highly recommend this book if you're looking for a really good sci-fi novel with really endearing characters as well as a really good plot. This was such a good read. But anyways, that's all to say for this video. These are just some of the most amazing books I read this year. There were definitely a few more, but I wanted to talk about the ones that was like top tier for me, ones I can rave about and I feel like just has a lasting impact on me, and these definitely did that. But I'm curious to know what you guys read this past year and what was your favorite books. Were any of these books your favorite reads, or did you completely disagree with me and you're just like, ew, why did you like that book? I don't like that book. Tell me why down below. But as always, if you like this video, please do give me a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel. And if you'd like to see more content of me, please don't hesitate to subscribe down below as well as the notification bell. And as always, if you follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!